Next example problem is problem number 75 on page 58 of chapter 3, explaining motion. And the problem reads, if a skydiver has a net force of 300 newtons and an acceleration of 4 meters per second squared, what is the mass of the skydiver? So what's we're looking for? It says, what is the mass? And what's given? It says the skydiver has a net force of 300 newtons. And an acceleration of 4 meters per second squared. What is its mass? So what equations? Well, this is Newton's second law. You might be asking yourself, well, hey, if it's a skydiver, they're falling. How come their acceleration is not 9.8 meters per second squared? It's not g. Well, that's air resistance, right? Whenever an object is falling, it has a weight, equal to mg, but also there's drag. There's a drag force, and that drag force increases with speed until it reaches a maximum. Well, it increases in speed until your drag force equals the weight, and then you stop accelerating downward, and that's called terminal velocity. But at this point, that isn't the case. The drag force is not equal to the weight because the object has an acceleration downward of 4 meters per second squared. So the drag force the skydiver has not reached their terminal velocity where they stop accelerating because the drag force equals the weight. They're still accelerating downward. But it's not at 9.8 meters per second squared because that drag force acting up is counteracting some of the weight. So we want to know what the mass is. All right, and so we want to solve for mass. We know the net force, 300 newtons. We know the acceleration, looking for mass. Solve for mass equals F net divided by acceleration, 300 newtons divided by 4 meters per second squared. All right, so I forgot to mention, I define downward as being positive. So my net force is downward, and my acceleration is downward, so both positive. And so my mass is, well, it's 3/4 times 100, so that's 0.75 times 100, that gives me 75. Kilograms. Remember, a newton is a kilogram meter per second squared, divided by meters per second squared gives me kilograms. And 75 kilograms is a very reasonable mass for a person. So that's our final answer.